Hello, everyone. Good evening, and my name is Paradise. I welcome you again to another episode of the Sustainability Squad Africa. Join me today is Ebere. You already know Ebere, my co-host, and we'll be joined today by the founder of Tomorrow is a Girl, Lucy Ogudo, to discuss issues or perceptions around data gap in the development sphere in Nigeria. Please say hello to our audience, Lucy.
Hello, this is Lucy here. Hello, our audience.
Thank you so much for joining
Happy
us
to be
today.
here.
Ebere, um, could you please say hello to those listening? All right, while we wait for her to come on board, and we'll just like get started. So it's just going to be like a conversation. There's been questions, there's been ideas, there's been perceptions. People have argued, social media and all over, that there's like a gender gap. Not gender gap, data gap, please. That there is a data gap in the Nigerian development sphere. And I'm just wondering, because I don't also have the data, like the actual data, yes. And I think that is the data gap actually. So I just want to know what your perception is, coming from the field, having worked like in the development sphere for years and championing the projects you champion at TAG. And I know you've also worked on some UNESCO or UNICEF projects. So, from your experience in the field, research, the paperwork, the reports, we just want to know, do you think that the data we have or the reports written across organizations or spheres reflect the actual reality on ground, especially at least for the communities where you work and where you've worked?
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just as you rightly identified, of course, there's a data gap, like a huge one. Let's even start from the smallest things and the easiest things. When last did Nigeria hold a census? Sorry, I'm in Nigeria. I know I just called Nigeria. They just took my life.
Like,
Okay, so just as I was saying, that of course there is a data gap, a huge one for for us in the development sector. I mean, let's talk about the data, the normal data. How many people are in Nigeria to start with? When did census? When did the last? When was the last census conducted? That was like 2006, if I can
no, I
remember
think
correctly.
2011. I think there was a census
In
in
2011.
2011.
I'm not sure, but I think that the last census was 2006. Like that's from my side. I mean, I stand to be corrected. So if we say we're intervening, how many children are we even intervening for? How many people are in Nigeria to start with? So we keep referencing this data from far back as okay, you say 2011 and I say 26. We keep referencing data as far back as 10, 15, 20 years ago, you know.
Yeah,
And so, does this even reflect the reality of today? Does it
yeah,
reflect the reality of today? The answer is no. So, we're talking about the various, the easiest data that we should actually have, you
yeah,
know. And then, for me, when we talk about these data gaps, I've been able to like look at it from various points of views in terms of what could actually be causing this. What would that? Why are we even here? And I was able to put down some points because I just really talk about it. In an organization, for example, we have limited availability of reliable to-date data. You want to do something, you want to intervene, but the only data you're seeing is the ones from NHIS, MIX, and these data take like 3 to 5 years for them to come out. You rely on these data and wait for another, So, and
yes,
you are in the field, this data is not even telling you the condition of today, you
mm,
know, it's telling you the condition of 3 years ago, and you're interacting with people. You're just not, you're not able to harmonize the data and the
mhm,
current reality on ground. So for me, the fact that we have to rely on these big organizations and these data are not even day to day recent Okay, the light is back. So they're not even our day-to-day recent data, that is generated maybe in 6 months, in 1 month. I think it's a big challenge because you might be solving malaria when somebody is already dying of typhoid. So that is number one for me. And then secondly, I think I was also going to talk about over reliance on our donors driven data. For example, my organization now, if they apply for funding, they say UNICEF or UNDP will give us funding to do a project. Of course, these donors, they already have targets. They already have specific indicators that they want to target.
Yeah.
So they have their own data backing their interventions. So, and this is what they will now hand over to you,
Yeah.
who is the implementing partner. Use this and run. So it's not speaking exactly to the case, like what the data is speaking to what they want, not what the community, the current need of the
Yeah.
community. So you're now working on a data that is generated by a donors that are not even here, that are out there, and this is the indicator they want. No, I'm not saying that is wrong. It's okay for them to have their indicators, their targets, what they want to achieve, and how they want to achieve it. But I think that we that and the grassroots should have real-time data that speaks to what we want to do for our people, because we're not just doing this because we want to get some certain kind of target, but doing it because it involves the life of that one child in the
Yeah.
community. So for me, that's also another thing. Everybody just relies on these donors to give us. Wrong with this. It's not even you don't even have that as community people. What do you really want? What is even disturbing you? So you can see implementing projects on this, and the community is telling you this one you're doing is not our problem. This thing is not our problem. They're speaking big grammar, telling them this, but they're telling you that this one is not what is bothering them. But you're insisting on
That
you
is
know,
it.
forcing these projects on them. So I do think that even us as CSOs and NGOs, we need to be able to say, as they are telling us to do this, this is what we need to have as an intervention that is targeted to the community, not just because they don't want it, but because the community actually needs it. I think AB is raising her hand.
Yes, we had this. This was part of the last episode on community development. Ebi, please take the floor.
Yes, so I wanted to quickly add something, right? Because the truth is it's just like I remember last year I struggled a lot with data last year. And I think I told you about it, Paradise, and that was even the reason that we decided to do the research that we're currently doing. Because the my point, let me just go straight to the point, is that sometimes it is what we feed these big organizations that they give back to us. Because somebody is working in a hospital, you're working in a primary health center, you're the person in charge of registration, file, abata card, email this one. Sorry for my Igbo, right? You're not taking the job seriously. You're just doing it anyhow. Or you're somebody that's in charge of registering students for WAEC,
Mm.
or somebody responsible. Basic things like this, these are where people actually gather data from.
Yeah.
I remember when we're doing that article on education for girls in Ebonyi State. I went to WAEC. I was looking for data from WAEC database. I was
Funny.
looking for
Yeah.
I was looking for data from NECO. I went to Ministry of Education. Meanwhile, the people that work in these offices do not understand how important their jobs are.
Yeah,
So you're just
yeah.
doing it. You come
Anyhow,
to work
anyhow,
anytime. They say people
anyhow.
that work in the ministry, they say that if you want to do work and do other business, work in a ministry or work in local governments.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
yeah.
these are the people that are responsible for community that give us the data from the
Exactly.
grassroots.
Exactly. So
Just
From the
someone
grassroots.
when they did mobilization for this, when they advertised for this local government staffs, scientists, doctors, medical laboratory scientists, nurses, all those local government general
yeah.
hospital staffs. Somebody
Yeah.
told me, apply for this thing now, get the job, just be doing your thing, nothing concern you. And that is the reality. The person was saying the facts.
I will
Get the
tell. I
job,
will
they
tell.
town, they
I
collect the
will tell
salary.
you a story shortly. But just before we get there, I just thought, like, for the sake of people that will be watching,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
need to, like, even establish what exactly is even this data gap. because someone may just be struggling. And I said the easiest way is to just ask Google, like ask Google what data gap is and try to look at the kind of data gap that we can have, and then try to relate this to our practical experiences or scenarios or situation in the communities where we work. And then I asked Google, and I'm just going to read from Mr. Google. So
Okay.
Mr.
Mhm.
Google said a data gap refers to a lack of information or insufficient data in specific area which can hinder analysis, decision making, or research. Now I went on to like list types of data gaps. We have quantitative gaps, missing numerical data that prevent statistical analysis, like the number of girls that have registered for WAEC you mentioned. And then qualitative gaps, lack of descriptive data that limits understanding of context or user experience, which must have influenced the KPIs, leading to us, leading to donors asking for something different from what communities actually want. And the one we suffer the most is temporal gaps, absence of data over a specific period time, affecting trend analysis. That was the first point you raised, Lucy. So we'll eventually look at, you've mentioned causes of this and the implications, but I just wanted to like bring this layman explanation, in for people that will be watching this later on who are not like in the field, who may not have an idea of exactly what we're talking about. So please go
Sorry,
ahead.
let me add something to what you just to buttress for further explanation. Yesterday, we're talking about the voluntary national review, and one of the recommendations that was given was data. That
Yeah.
we need more data for policymakers. So I just wanted to explain in case somebody is listening. Now, if we don't have correct, accurate data, you don't have anything to hold the policymakers against. Like, you can't tell them that children are not in school, or women are being marginalized. What is
How many
what's
women?
the
You ask you how
yeah,
many women?
what's the backing? Like, do you have any proof? Do you have evidence? Show working. So that proof is data.
Yeah.
So the data is the proof we're talking about. So how do you know that a particular community have higher rate of child marriage than the other one? It's data.
Yeah.
How do you know that a particular community has more people that are learned? That is
Yeah.
not by people that you know personally, because people that you know personally might be people in your circle.
Yeah.
It's data that will give us all those things. So those are some of the reasons why this data gap is a very important topic for us to have.
All right. Okay, so I was just, I don't know where I stopped, but I know that I still have like 3 points that I have not touched. When I said I was able to extract from my own end what I really think are the issues, that may for us in the development sector in terms of data gap. And this is my personal view on this. Of course, we can have more than. I think that also weak data collection infrastructure is a problem, very big problem. When we lack the tools, digital tools as organizations like this, you may really be willing and you want to collect these data, but then you lack the workforce, the know-how. You don't even know how to analyze data. You don't even have the capacity to employ a real data analyst, for you to be able to get this data. And because so a friend of mine had collected the data in my program before, and he used students come and collect this data. And like students, they didn't really have for me, I think that they didn't really have that, training on how they're supposed to. So the data was going one kind, different from one. So when not, I said this data is one kind, data is going one kind. So, and I was able to trace it to the fact that the people who collected the data didn't really are not
They're
grounded,
not trained.
we're not trained, thank you. We're
Yeah.
not trained in data collection and the digital tools they can actually even use, so that we are sure that these data are actually the real things that translates to what is really on the ground. I think
Yeah.
there's also an issue, even how to interpret these things to, we're talking about communities, right? When you now talk about communication gaps, There
Yeah.
is there's also illiteracy problem. People in the
Yeah.
community, most times because they don't trust you or you've not built that link with them, you're asking them something, they are nodding their head. You take
Mm.
them and say yes. You don't, it's not, you, they don't understand you. So to save their stress, they will not nod their head or do like this.
Go and
So
come and be going.
now, so that you come and go in, whether they understand the question or not. So communication is also an issue. Are we able to make sure that these people are not just telling us what we want to hear?
Mm.
They trust us enough to tell us what really is their reality. So that is another thing. And then me, I think so the biggest problem I faced in this whole thing is political bottlenecks.
Mm.
You can have beautiful data, but politicians don't want anybody to know that not anything's wrong in their state. They tell you, no, don't do that. Don't publish this. So they want to fight, nail and tooth to make sure that they protect the image of their state. At the end of the day, who is losing? That's the question. Who's going to lose? Is that woman down there who is at the risk of gender-based violence, who's at the risk of female genital mutilation, who's at the risk of one thing or the other? But then they have hidden her plight under politics. They want to protect the image of the
And
state.
that begs that points to the question of why should CSOs or NGOs collecting data to start with, like, depend on government? I know there should be some kind of interaction between the stakeholders, but are CSOs truly independent if government is going to interfere with the data they have and what they are going to put out from data they collect on site, from field work?
Yeah. So, of course, the thing is that CSOs are supposed to be independent of government. But because we want the goodwill of the government, you want continued collaboration, you want partnership to be able to do bigger things and all of that. Sometimes you just want to have this link, this synergy. You even
Yeah.
want your program to be, you want your program community to have community buy-in. All of those things you want to do it together with government, and so it also interferes in the way CSOs now put the things that CSOs decide to put out there,
Yeah.
because you want to be in the good position, which shouldn't really be.
It
And
shouldn't
you're
be.
not. We actually CSOs are supposed to be the checkmates, checkmating the government, and
Yes.
it's not a fight. When you're telling somebody this should be done this way, it's because you really like the person and you really want the person to do well. If not, you keep quiet and let the person make some mistakes.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think people see it this way. I think people see it when you say something wrong about the government, you're fighting the government, which shouldn't be.
No, it should not be. I agree with you 100%. And I think, although this will also come in the next episode where we'll be exploring the role of CSOs in achieving sustainable development in Nigeria. Because I think CSOs should not be in bed with the government. It's
Yeah,
just like the three arms of government for
exactly.
Nigeria. There's a federal government having the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary marry themselves and dance in one tune. They should
Exactly.
checkmate each other. They should make sure that each arm is functioning properly. But when they now dance to the same beat, nobody is checkmating who, and things just go to ruins. So I don't think there is any scenario where CSOs should pander to the government. I am not saying attack the government, but they should be neutral and open with their
Yeah,
information, with their data, with what they do. The
yeah,
government, if the government is not comfortable with the information they have, which is true, the government should then work to fix that
yeah.
and ensure that solutions, are brought forward. I said I was going to share a personal story I witnessed on a project I was opportune to be part of back home in Nigeria before I left Nigeria. It was a USAID funded project. Now, this goes back to the question of big organization and their data, if it truly reflects what is on ground. Now, I don't blame these big names and organizations with the data they have, because it is what we give them from site that they publish. you said and in their headquarters in Abuja, we will not come down to collect data in my village. But they will engage people who can reach my village to do that. And they don't have 10 eyes to know what is happening on ground. They trust that they've trained these people enough to be able to supply them good data or true or an actual data. But most times that is not the case. On this particular project, I was brought in as a stakeholder from my community, and we were doing, we reviewed basic delivery of basic education, WASH, that's something sanitation and health, water, sanitation and health, I think that's WASH. And there was also for public primary health care. The final session for my local government that day was at Mona Bliss. And stakeholders were brought from villages. They brought all these old men, old women, youth from like interior villages from within the local government. And it was meant to also be like a town hall meeting, kind of where you hear them and their issues. And we were now talking about public health centers that day. And the lady who was in charge of the public health center in my own Agaleg, it's not a word, in my own community, Agaleg community, stood up and she all had praises for the governor. After she praised the governor, she went ahead to the picture she painted of that public health center. You will want to go and live there. Like, you will just want to go and live there. But what struck me was that few months before that particular event, I led a project in Abakaliki that went on site and collected both quantitative and qualitative data on the delivery of primary education and primary health care. I had pictures, videos from this particular health center. No light, no beds, doctors are never there. Not people will, villagers were even breaking in to steal their bed sheets, not
He shocked you.
absolutely. And she was there. After she sang Dave Umahi's song, Dave was the governor at the time, and praised the governor. She went on to sing only praises. And I saw the old men and women from my community, like you could see the shock on their faces. They were all wondering which health center she was talking about. Because I believe they were there that day because they wanted help. They wanted to be heard. They need solution to their problems. And this lady who was there, at some point I couldn't take it, and then I raised my hands and I began to question I told, I have the data, I have the picture, I have the video, I have interviews we conducted. Of course, I cannot use that information because that data was collected for a different organization and for a different reason. But I told her, from what I have, what you're saying does not appear to be true. This is what I know. This immediately I began to speak. Those men came alive. Like I could hear them from behind me. Like, oh God, hey, Jopu, it's true, it's true, it's true. But do you know what happened? By the time that session was concluded, the report from the implementing organization written, and it was televised. No part of my contribution that day was captured. Not even one part that said that this other thing is not true it was shared because I was there, like they consulted me like a number of times because of my community and it was done in my local government. And after I saw that report, I left that group. I just knew I could not work there. And they ran with the information, the data that all is well in that health center. And of course, that is what will be sent to USAID. And that is what and now the lady representing USAID in Ebonyi State, I can't remember her name, but she's like plump and dark. She sat in that hall that day, and after everything, that was what was reported. And she did not appear to be bothered with the discrepancies and the whatever that was going on. And I mean, it just goes on and on. Your hand is up, Lucy.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask, Paradise, I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
imagine that this was a scenario, right? And after the whole thing, you said publishes their data. You, in your organization, publish your own. Please, who will believe? In all honesty, whose data is going to fly? So the point
Exactly.
is that the point is this thing is everybody, every hands needs to be on deck
Yeah.
for us to actually have the right thing out there,
Yeah, but
because
not to cut you short, Lucy. I think if 2 or 3 people publish conflicting data about one thing, it will force and like it will force.
exactly what I'm saying. What I'm trying
Yes.
to say is the CSOs have this dependence and this independent mindset that, oh, doesn't have to be what they. Sorry,
No
yeah, sorry
worry.
about that. Okay, so if we have that orientation that we don't have to rely so much on these people, we have to talk about what is really on ground,
Yeah.
regardless of what is out there. And then we are pushed not to depend on these data, but to do our own research and publish out there. We have this, we know that this is a problem and we need to tackle it. We need to make sure that we are getting these data and putting it out there. Then if we think it's a need, that way we cannot begin to open room for that dialogue. For now, nobody is arguing anything. We're taking everything that is said out there at face value. We're taking it
Okay,
out there
no, thinker.
because big organization and all of that. So I think that this conversation needs to be done more, and people just need to know that we need to start speaking up for the sake of the children in our communities who we represent. Yeah.
Yes, because something that always it crosses my mind sometimes is that when we say the development sector, it has become a sector, you know, just like banking. So it provides job, and those jobs thrive as long as we are not developed. The funding, the resources thrives on the back of
Yeah.
other development in
If there's
Africa
no
I was about to talk about
or
this
share,
Asia.
just now.
if there's
Yeah,
no slum, who you want
exactly.
intervene for? If there's
So
no
are
slum,
we
who you want intervene for?
exactly now? We need to. People may feel like, oh, it will take hundreds of years for some kind of sustainable development to happen, but it does not need to take a century for that to happen.
True.
All these underdeveloped countries need, I would first of all, I would think a leader that cares and likes their country enough to put their priorities first. After you get a patriotic leader, like half of the problem with Nigeria would be solved. And then people who are passionate enough to develop their local economies. Now, we need to pay, because sometimes I feel in this development sector, people are going to do whatever it takes to make sure that their jobs remain. And
Okay.
making sure that their jobs remain also means that we don't achieve what we aim to achieve. So it now brings about the question of why then? What then are we chasing? Like what exactly are we after? So
Parents, I wanted to add something. Sorry if I'm cutting you
no,
off.
please go ahead.
So I wanted to add something. I think that I don't agree that everybody thinks, okay, maybe some people think like this, but maybe just putting this out there for anybody, who runs an NGO
Yeah.
and who does something in development. The truth is that development continue.
Yeah.
Development will not stop if slums are eradicated, if everybody becomes big. Development is a continuous thing. It's beyond giving aid. It's
Yeah.
beyond humanitarian responses of conflict and all that. You don't have to cause conflict so that you can be able to intervene. No. So the point is, look at a country like US. Do you know how many NGOs are in the US and solving real needs, even
Problems. Yeah.
in the level, real problems, even in the level they are in today? So
Yeah.
the truth is that even if people stop living in rural communities and all start living in towns, there will always be that thing that people are still lacking, that
Yeah.
needs people to keep talking about it, that needs people to keep doing it. So I don't need to have FGM to remain in my community for me to intervene in my community. No.
Yeah.
If FGM is gone, is gone. We move to another thing.
Evolve with the society.
Evolve with the society and move. I did a research, my friend did a research on what's it called, use of AI, among secondary school students. And I told him in my next program, since I do secondary school, we will come and take those data. See, we can also shift from talking about this, if this has been solved, and start talking about another thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that particular problem. So for me, this
Yeah.
is the angle I see it from. And that's why I keep telling people, see, even if girls stop suffering today, tomorrow is a girl will still be there.
Yeah.
Because there will always be things, that affect the girl child that we need to do, we need
I
to talk.
am really glad you brought this up because it was also one of the reasons I brought that excuse me. I brought that up because if people feel the only reason, to intervene is because people are suffering and there is poverty, and then we can solve those problems in the scale we have them now, just like you said, and still have things to do. Just this evening, I just read, like, something popped up on my phone. The former Prime Minister of the UK just took a job with Goldman Sachs as an advisor or something, and his salary will be going to an organization he formed in his constituency, because, of course, he's still a member of the parliament. So, in his constituency, to fight, to improve literacy. And I was like, is there an illiteracy issue in the UK? Like, just less than 30 minutes before this session. And I asked that question, but I had other things. I was like, I'll just look into it because just maybe there is. And if there is, while I know I may not be able to do so much, I would like to volunteer. There is no world where anybody should struggle with reading and writing and understanding, because you made a point in one of the previous episodes we had. Ebere said the people we leave behind today will cause our, I can't remember how you phrase, but it's like the people we leave behind today will be the cause of our problems for tomorrow. So if I cannot read and understand, I just need somebody to tell me one hateful thing, and then I can take to arms and cause havoc and, cause a lot of problems. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. Maybe do you have,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, just to add, because you know, one of our board members was asking me one time, I think was it last year, he was like, so this thing you're doing for this girl, so what's the end? What's the end? you know, so do we keep doing this? Like, when is it going to end?
yeah,
And I thought about it. I said, I don't think it's about ending. I think it's about making sure we achieve our goals.
yeah,
Every organization, that's why it's good to have a vision in mind. Honestly, for me, I'm looking forward to the time when I don't want to do anything development and just do the things I love, like
travel,
travel, read, whatever it is that makes me happy. And I know that I will not have it on my conscience that a girl somewhere is struggling to buy pad and I have the mind to be flying around the world. You get, so I'm looking forward to getting to that point. But until we get there, I remember, last year when I was just, thinking about our girls at SAF, and our goal at SAF is for women to be self-sufficient, economic empowerment. right? Whether it's education, whether it's economic empowerment, whatever it is that is your goal and dream, we just want to see you get to that point where you can now go on your own, right? So, and I realized that even though we had trained girls, they have the skills, business skills too. They are good, like they can now stand on their own, but to start was an issue. And that was why I kept thinking, do we give micro loans? Do we buy equipment and share? Which one was more sustainable? And that was why we now thought about the facility. So just like to buttress your points, you just keep evolving. Right? You just keep evolving to meet the needs of the people that God has assigned to you to just look out for. And it's as simple as that. Yeah, and another thing I also wanted to add to what people were saying initially is that sometimes, I said this thing yesterday, we might be laughing about it, but we don't understand how critical these things can be until we see somebody this is somebody's life on the line, right? For instance, now somebody is working, like yesterday you were mentioning, you said some people that when we talk about gender, people that are talking about equal pay. I know we laughed about it. We're saying there's nothing like that in Nigeria. And I know I mentioned something. I said it's possible that it is what their donor, the kind of project their donor is looking out to do in Nigeria. So they just have to do what they have to do to keep the money coming, And this is one of the issues. These are some of the issues we have in the development space. And another issue also is, people trying to fabricate data. Remember when we talked about something we said off camera yesterday about that VNR, So just just to keep the money coming, people will do anything, fabricate data. Sometimes we don't understand how important these things are. I remember when people keep saying, I know that we have gender issues in the north, right? But sometimes I believe that it is exaggerated far more than what is actually happening, right? And, so many other things. So sometimes we do these things and when people have funding, right, to give for aid, some people out of the goodness of their hearts want to give. Maybe somebody wants to give, just like Lucy said about the government hiding some of this information that we generate. Somebody wants to give for children who are dying of maybe malnutrition, for instance, and the particular government is feeling embarrassed to share that there's a particular community in their states that still have cases of kwashiorkor and scurvy and malnutrition.
Continue.
Yeah, okay. So, imagine somebody wants to donate to this cause now, and then the person finds out that, oh, okay, this is not an issue here. Meanwhile, there's a child somewhere that aid would have saved their life. But because somebody is hiding it, that person could actually die. The person can actually die. A woman in labor in Ndegokpitumo, for example, that needs CS urgently, and there's no primary health center. Even if there's primary health center, there's no doctor or somebody, medical health practitioner, that can actually perform that CS as urgently as she needs it. Or there is, and then it's in the middle of the night and there's no lights, and somebody is saying that primary health centers are working, and that woman dies there. These things, I'm sure, happen from time to time. But when we say these things, we just laugh over it. We don't understand. I'm just saying it, throwing it out there in case anybody's seeing this thing. When there are certain things you do in your workplace and you feel like they are insignificant, but you don't understand the extent it's going to go. Wherever it is you work, even as a non-profit person, an NGO person, you finish doing your projects and you're writing reports on social media, because now we're in the age of artificial intelligence. Data is being collected from every nook and cranny of the earth. You finish doing your research. You say you gave 10,000 girls in Abakaliki scholarship. You say you think it's just Facebook you wrote it in, but Facebook is connected to AI. Now we have Meta, Abi. All of them are connected, interconnected. And then somewhere, somehow, somebody will Google Abakaliki and they are seeing 10,000 scholarships given to girls. And before God and man, you give only 10 girls scholarship. So you can imagine the opportunities you deny so
That's
many other,
so
you know,
inflated.
I'm just saying, because sometimes we think that these things, we just take them for just do it, just throw it out there, do it anyhow. Meanwhile, you're denying people opportunities.
Yeah.
You're denying people opportunities that can change their lives, that can change generations. And people just sit waiting for aid, waiting for help, praying and asking God for help. And God is actually sending help. And you are sitting in your small office, typing all manner of things on social media, manipulating data.
Yeah.
So I just feel like we need to really understand the extent of some of these our little, actions and how far it can go.
Yes, and this also brings me back to the issue when you went to the WAEC and NECO office and how civil servants don't keep record. Public offices in Nigeria don't keep record. And it's not nice. Even
Yeah.
birth record from hospitals, like mm, things like this are not something that somebody that was born maybe just 80s or 70s may want to trace whatever, and they don't have any, just 40 years ago, they can't find anything. And it's not nice. So I'm just thinking, not I'm thinking, I'm proposing if CSOs can come together in every state that they exist. I think in Ebonyi State they have this coalition for civil society organization. What are
Yeah.
they coalizing or coalitioning on? Like,
We'll have Mr. Keze in the next section.
oh,
He's the
yes,
head.
exactly. So what are they doing? Because this is what they can start campaigning or pushing for. Force the government, lobby the government to, in this era of computers, people still take information on paper. And when you leave, it leaves with you, or when there is fire, everything gets burnt up. But if you
Or even
stop
rain, even sweat.
saying,
I mean,
yes, if
say not.
it goes down to schools as well. Students will do their final year research, submit hard copy, and you come out one day and they use your introduction page to sell akara to you. It just
Or
is
corn.
exactly, it's not nice. These things should be digitalized.
Yeah.
They should be digitalized, and that is what we should be pushing for. No public office in 2025 should still take data on paper. There are servers, there cloud. And everyone is saying now, train people on IT this, IT that, IT this. The people that are even getting trained, where are the jobs within Nigeria? So when you go on Upwork, they can get jobs, cheap labor, international cheap labor is what they can access. The government can
Mm.
actually set this up. This will create jobs. Businesses will open to manage cloud solutions for government,
Yeah.
for
Mm.
businesses. It's just not nice. And I think it is high time that NGOs, because it's what NGOs, it's what civil society organizations are meant to do, or even
Mm.
individuals who are interested in this or who
Data, yeah.
understand the implication of this should begin to campaign and lobby for the government to do the right thing. Information should
Yeah.
be digitalized in 2025. We should not be going to notice board to use our hand to trace whatever that is written with white chalk, and I'm upset. It's upsetting me. The more I think about it, the more upset
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah.
You get. No,
Mm.
it's really not nice. It's really not nice.
Mm.
And I think the National or Nigerian Bureau of Statistics should also I know they collect data from time to time. I know they did recently, they had like state wide data collection in different
Mm.
areas. So I think they should do that more frequently. Have
Someone can
more.
also even go to collect data on data collection. You
Mhm.
get
Yeah,
someone can do a research on data collection in Nigeria.
yeah.
Just check some of these ministries, some of these local governments, some of these offices, and see how they do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's something that is something that can be done, and will
Yeah.
at least look
Interview the
into how
staff,
to improve.
interview patients, interview customers, interview people that just walk into the office and check out how things are being.
And see
It's
how it
going to
can be
do a lot
improved.
of things. Yeah.
I think it's something that is worth doing, actually.
Yeah.
It's worth doing. And CSOs should come together. in a state, for instance, if there's like an umbrella housing CSOs or NGOs, it is high time they came together to make sure that the data they get from field, or to also say no to donor KPI, or find a way to work with donors to establish the proper KPI, which will bring about solution in the communities they're working in. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been years of this conversation around donor KPIs. If the donor wants to stop this in this community, are you going to stop what is not existing? Why there is something existing? Like, I'm
Yeah.
here to help stop malaria, but your donation will come to me only if I will stop AIDS. And there is nobody in the community that has AIDS, but people are dying of malaria. So I will take your money and come and sensitize people on AIDS and stock their public health center with medication for AIDS, and they keep dying of malaria, and nobody uses your medication until it expires, or it is even given to someone in error. And then you write your proper report, how you supplied 1 million whatever for AIDS to this community, and this. When that organization on ground could have, insisted.
Yeah. Unfortunately, most organizations don't even get the opportunity when you have thousands of non-profits applying for one grant.
I
You
do
know, they
understand.
just take it like that and hope that
And it's
somehow,
very,
one day.
I'm thinking, not
Really
I'm thinking,
sad.
NGOs should find a way to raise funds for themselves.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Locally fundraise
Yeah,
for what you
yeah,
do.
yeah.
So when
That's
someone
the
is
best
going to
thing.
donate to you, or when if a donor agency is going to give to you, they will not be giving to what you're doing, not
Yeah,
giving to what they want you to do.
yeah. This has been a very interesting conversation, honestly. Who knew data can be this
Oh,
data
I'm a
is
data
always a
person,
very
so
boring topic,
no,
but
data is beautiful.
yeah.
In all its form, it is beautiful.
Mm, yeah.
I find it beautiful though. Beautiful. Oh God. I mean, it's been a lovely session, and
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. So,
Yeah, so it's been a very interesting conversation. I mean, I didn't even want it to end. There's just so much to talk about, and there's specifically so much to rant about regarding data, because we've experienced a lot of frustration, bottlenecks, do working with data that we know deep down that this is not true. This is not correct. Yeah, so thank you very much. I want to say thank you to Lucy, who
yeah,
unfortunately left us early. Yeah, she was really passionate. She's really passionate about the work she does at Tomorrow is a Girl initiative
yeah,
and data collection. I'm also saying thank you here to my colleague, Paradise. Thank you to you, all our amazing audience and listeners. We hope this conversation and the previous conversations and the one we'll have in the future inspires you and pushes you to try to create change, sustainable change in your communities. Until we come your way again, we are the Sustainability Squad, and we'll see you some other time. Bye.